Resultant effect is that referees are no longer under any pressure to make the right decisions. The PGMOL, that is meant to be a governing body for the refs in the Premier League, is simply just a protective body for the ref. They don't do anything as regards sanctions and punishments that as they should, to the severity that they should be doing. They don't. All they do is just try and give excuses and give apologies to the clubs, and all of those things are not enough. They're not enough to ensure that the issue of officiating in the Premier League changes. They're just not enough. Not to talk about the fact that the slightest wave of hand or just the slightest word of displeasure or disagreements to the referee results in a booking for dissent. The moment a manager just waves his hand or just says a swear word, is booked for dissent. You can Complaining about the officiating of a game is a common theme in football. Fans of especially losing teams, they always want to find an external scapegoat for the loss of their teams, and like to blame refereeing decisions. Oftentimes referees are the scapegoats for such decisions. And of course, the video assistant referee, the VAR or the VAR as some people call it, was introduced to the game with the understanding that referees are human beings, okay, and they are prone to errors. So then VAR was introduced as a kind of system that helps to then correct such errors on the pitch as they occur, would be necessary to then ensure a fair game. The irony is that humans are also the ones running the VAR. So we know that, of course, we've already established the fact that human beings are prone to errors, and they are also the ones running the VAR. So week in, week out, even since the invention of the video assistant referee, we still see wrong decisions made that get heads turning. Now, the issue for me is that these refs that make such wrong decisions week in, week out, they're not getting properly sanctioned as many fans would like, as they should actually. Let's even forget about what fans think. They're not getting serious sanctions as they should be getting. And then that is why there is almost no referee in the game that, fills fans with confidence. Every ref, most fans have one thing to say about pretty much every single referee that officiates in the Premier League today. So in this video, we explore the reasons why I believe the Premier League, which we all love, might be getting destroyed by the standard of officiating that we see today. If you're in for that sort of thing, do well to like this video, do well to subscribe to our channel, and click on the notifications button so you're notified when there's new content on the channel. Referees are not just meant to officiate the game, okay? They are also meant to try and remain unbiased while doing so. But in recent times, we are quickly seeing a trend where there are more and more reasons to believe that referees are actually biased, while officiating games in the Premier League. Let's start from the biggest one. The David Coates scandal, where he was seen to be publicly declaring his hatred for Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool on camera. David Coates has since been suspended, but that begs the question. If that video didn't come out in the way it did, I'm pretty much certain David Coates will still be an official even till now, officiating games in the Premier League, including Liverpool games. And who's to say there are not, other refs that have such biases, that possibly could cloud their judgments or their officiating in certain games, that includes the clubs that they have a bias against or for. Or sometimes it might just even be a random game, but the results of that game might have a bearing on the team that they have a bias against. They are human beings, like we've explained before, and while we want to try to believe that these refs don't have these biases, we also know kind of that as a human being, it's difficult to not let these biases cloud your judgment. And fine, okay, we want to believe that these referees don't, have such biases. But time after time again, we keep seeing examples that tells us that, they might actually do, at least some of them. Mike Dean, a former Premier League referee, has admitted to not sending Anthony Taylor, who is, of course, a current Premier League referee, to the VAR screen to review a particular decision in the game between Chelsea and Tottenham Hotspurs, where I believe it was Christian Romero who apparently had pulled the hair of Marc Cucurella. And Mike Dean said he didn't send Anthony Taylor to the screen because he felt he didn't want to make the game a little bit more harder, or he didn't want to make the game harder for his mate. Interesting. So you are willing to not do what is right, even though he has apologized for that. But who cares about the apology? That might have had a bearing on that game or even other games related to it. Okay, so are you saying you refuse to do what was right because you didn't want to make the game more difficult for your friend. That's interesting. Who knows what else he's willing to do, or he was willing to do, because he's no longer a referee in the Premier League. Oh, so who knows what else he was willing to do, for such, relationships, or for other things as well. And who knows what other referees today, that are still officiating in the Premier League, who knows what they're willing to do, to just help their mate out. I mean, really, how about occasion bias? So Mike Dean, again, said on Sky Sports after a penalty incident in the Manchester derby, the game between Manchester United and Manchester City at the Etihad Stadium in December, I believe. And he said something very interesting. Of course, there was a penalty incident where Ruben Diaz was adjudged to have failed Rasmus Højlund in the box, and the penalty was not given by the on-field referee. And Mike Dean, while trying to defend the decision of the referee, said it's not a penalty in a game like this. So are you saying, Mike Dean, that there are different sets of rules for different sets of games, that it's a penalty in a game that's probably not a derby, but in a game that's a derby such as the Manchester derby, it's not a penalty? That's a bias on its own. That's, occasion bias, if I would call it so. So these are just several examples of referees being biased, either for a relationship or for just, different reasons. So we can establish based on this that it's very possible, and it's probably happening more, often than we think it is, that referees are biased in their judgments while officiating Premier League games. So how about just blatantly wrong decisions? Okay, let's start from the disgraceful sending off of Miles Lewis-Skelly in the game between Wolverhampton Wanderers and Arsenal just this weekend by Michael Oliver. This was confirmed by video assistant referee Darren England. Now, it was a foul by Lewis-Skelly, no doubt about that. But at most, that's a bookable offense. He stopped a counter-attack. His leg might have been a little bit high, but just slightly above ankle. Just slightly above the ankle. But then, the intention was to stop the counter-attack. It wasn't a dangerous tackle. It was not a dangerous tackle, but it was still sent off. And the VAR also said it was a red card, agreeing with the on-field decision. And of course, Arsenal went on to win the game, but that could have altered the course of the game if Wolves had, won that game, or, Arsenal did not win that game. Arsenal fans on Twitter, they won't let us hear what, they will keep making sure they echo on the fact that, there's injustice there, there's injustice here. And I believe that every team would have something to say about this as well. While Arsenal can cry about injustice, they've had quite a few players sent off this season, for so many different reasons. Manchester United would also have, one issue or the other to talk about. Let's even talk about Manchester United. Erik ten Hag was sacked after a game between West Ham United and Manchester United, where they lost that game after, Matthijs de Ligt conceded a penalty in injury time, of course, and Danny Ings was adjudged to have been fouled by Matthijs de Ligt, and of course Jarrod Bowen scored the winning penalty, and Ten Hag was sacked afterwards. But that wasn't a penalty, it was a collision in the box, and the on-field referee David Coote apparently said he didn't give the penalty. David Coote did not give the penalty. He said it wasn't a penalty, but it was the video assistant referee, who I believe was Anthony Taylor, who called David Coote's attention to the VAR monitor and advised him to give the penalty, which he did. But it was the wrong decision, because it was a 50-50 collision in the box, and in fact there was even a West Ham handball in the process of that collision. So it wasn't a penalty, not by any stretch of the imagination. So like I said, we could go on and on and on. Every team will have something to say about a decision that has gone against them that they believe was the wrong decision. This is where I'm coming to. The worst punishment or the worst sanction that any referee, except probably David Coote, because of course David Coote's issue was something really big and public and on social media and all of that, so he was given a lengthy suspension. I think he was permanently suspended, if that was not the way it was phrased, but I guess that's probably the only thing that they could have done. But aside from David Coote, none of these refs have been given anything more than a 1 week sanction, where they're just, taken out of the team that are going to officiate the Premier League games for a particular game week. And that's all. There's nothing else that's done to them. Okay. And and even that, it's also scarce. It's very few and far between. We don't see that often. Now, the resultant effect is that referees are no longer under any pressure to make the right decisions. The PGMOL, that is meant to be a governing body for the refs in the Premier League, is simply just a protective body for the ref. They don't do anything as regards sanctions and punishments that as they should, to the severity that they should be doing. They don't. All they do is just try and give excuses and give apologies to the clubs, and all of those things are not enough. They're not enough to ensure that the issue of officiating in the Premier League changes. They're just not enough. Not to talk about the fact that the slightest wave of hand or just the slightest word of displeasure or disagreements to the referee results in a booking for dissent. The moment a manager just waves his hand or just says a swear word, is booked for dissent. You can't even just even square up to the referee a little bit. You are booked for dissent, or you're sent off even. There's just so much protection around the ref. Now, I'm not in any way, shape, or form trying to promote violence against referees. I'm not. All I'm saying is that sometimes the referees need to feel a little bit of pressure to understand that there's a lot at stake. And you would say that, they already know there's a lot at stake, but the decisions they make doesn't suggest to us that they do. The wrong decisions we see week in, week out in the Premier League suggest to us that, if someone like Mike Dean can say he made the wrong decision because he wants to protect his friend, it shows that he doesn't really know what's at stake here. Because if he does know what's at stake, he wouldn't be saying, making such assertion, or he won't even be taking such an action. All right, so it's obvious that these refs don't know what is at stake. So if they don't know what's at stake, then there needs to be a little bit more pressure put upon them to ensure that they make the right decision. But the PGMOL so far are just only going to protect them. They are always going to protect them. And because of that, the game is going. The game in the Premier League is getting destroyed as we know it. And if this does not change, these bad decisions will continue, and it will only get worse. And then what will happen is that fans, players, and teams will no longer trust these referees. They would no longer trust them. And like I said, that could be the end of the competition as we know it. So, unless a proper system of accountability, a proper system of reprimanding, and even commendation, if there is need for such, should be instituted, unless that is instituted, we are gradually seeing the decline of objectivity, in the Premier League. And when such system of accountability is instituted, it must be done publicly. Now, I know, probably in the organization, the PGMOL, they might, call someone aside and say, that decision you made, that's probably the wrong decision. And the guy's like, I know, but I know that might have been done in their rooms or whatever. But we want to see it done publicly. We want the PGMOL to come out and say, this, that. There should be a system for it. I'm not a professional in officiating or whatever. I don't have a license or whatever. But every fan with a brain can see these things. The officiating is poor, and it has been for years. And unless something is done, and done publicly, it's only going to get worse. And fans, like I said, teams and players will lose trust in the system, and that's going to destroy the game that we all love. Well, that's what I think. I would love to know what you think. I would love to know what you think about the refereeing situation, the officiating situation in the Premier League. What do you think can be done to ensure that this gets better, and not the other way around? So I would like you to drop that in the comment section. Also, do well to like this video. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. A lot of us watching the video are not subscribers. Subscribe to the channel. Do well to subscribe to the channel so that you can encourage us to keep making more content like this. And of course, click on the notifications bell so that you get notified when there is new content on the channel. My name is Goodness Eze. This is the Football Slides TV. More to come on this channel, so stay tuned. Bye.